Today we discuss communism, Marxism. We'll discuss what it is, where did it come from, and why did it succeed. Now, the 20th century had the Cold War, and so that was an ideological struggle between capitalism and communism. And for the longest time, we believed that capitalism and communism were polar opposites, a dialectic, okay? A black and white. But if that is the case, then how do we explain China? Because for the longest time, China was a communist country, and then in the 1980s, it started to reform, and now China is very much a capitalist country. In fact, if you think about it, this transition has been seamless. There hasn't been much conflict because of this transition. And this is not true historically, where transitions have been very violent. Okay, so think of the transition from feudalism to capitalism. Okay, that was a very violent process. Think of the process from Catholic Europe into Protestant Europe. That was also a very violent process. But in China, communism transitioned into capitalism pretty easily, pretty quickly, and extremely successfully. Okay? And in fact, you could say that today, China is very much a capitalist country with some communist elements, but it's very much capitalistic. So the question then is, if these two ideologies, capitalism and communism, are such polar opposites, if it's a dialectic, then how does this happen in China? And what I want to show you today is that actually this is a false dialectic, okay? Meaning that communism and capitalism are actually more similar than they are different. In fact, what I will show you is that in many ways, communism is a creation of capitalism as a weapon to destroy capitalism's major enemies, okay? So communism is not really the enemy of capitalism. The real enemies of capitalism are different ideologies, okay? So these ideologies include monarchy. The idea of monarchy is that rather than power in the hands of the capitalist, power is in the hand of the king, okay? And what a king often does is redistribute capital in a way that is more fair. So for example, when a king first comes into power, what a king often does is cancel all debts and redistribute the land. And that's why he's so popular, okay? So capitalists are afraid of kings. They don't want kings because a king will often redistribute property. Another great enemy of capitalism is religion or theocracy. Okay? And the idea here is that all religions teach you that money is evil, right? God doesn't want you to make money. God wants you to be kind to others, to love your children, to be a nice person, okay? So that's why in Catholic Europe, they were so poor, because people were more focused on redemption and salvation than they were on making money. Okay? So theocracy is also a major enemy of capitalism. Then you also have nationalism. Nationalism is the idea of loyalty to your people, loyalty to your nation. For capitalism, that's a problem, okay? Because capitalism wants to be loyal to capital, and it wants capital to flow through across borders. So if I see an investment opportunity in China, I want to take my money from America and put it into China. I don't want to worry about, oh, China's my enemy, China is not my people, okay? So nationalism is also a major problem. And then you also have another problem, okay, called democracy. So believe it or not, capitalists hate democracy. Why do they hate democracy? Because if you think about it, if people had power, the workers had power, they would all get together and vote to redistribute wealth, right? To make the rich pay more taxes. We call this socialism. Okay? So you think about it, the enemy of capitalism is not communism, it's these four other things. If you actually think about it, okay? Communism is working with capitalism to destroy all four of these things, right? So let's look at this. Monarchy, okay? Communism does not allow for monarchs to arise. It allows for a party to arise, right? What is a party? Party is an oligarchy, all right, which is a capitalist system. Now, theocracy. What does Marx say? Marx says is that religion is the opiate of the people. Religion is the great evil of the world. Religion creates false consciousness. Therefore, we must destroy all religion. Right? And if religion is destroyed, what is left? The only thing that is left is money. Okay? Now, nationalism. Communism is international. Right? Workers of the world unite. So nationalism is also bad. We want to unite as a world. All workers unite. The class consciousness is more important than national identity. Right? Now, democracy. No. This is bad too. Right? Because workers cannot defend their rights. Workers have false consciousness. Workers have been brainwashed by the capitalists in school, in the media, by the internet, by Hollywood, okay? Therefore, a vanguard, the party, must lead the people into socialism. All right? So this is really convenient how capitalism and communism have similar enemies, and communism helps destroy all four enemies in a way that capitalism cannot. Right? So you could also make the argument that maybe communism was a weapon or a virus created by capitalism in order to conquer the world, in order to destroy the world so that capitalism can spread throughout the world. And China is an example of this, right? Think about the Cultural Revolution that destroyed religion, that destroyed tradition, that destroyed cultural identity. And what happened after the Cultural Revolution? China became capitalist, and it became hyper-capitalistic. China had the fastest economic growth rate in the world. How did that happen? Okay? So I'm not saying this is true, I'm saying like, this is something for us to think about.